Hello, Luke here. I would just like to take a moment to disclose upfront that we sometimes talk about sensitive topics in our podcasts, and in fairness to our audience, we will try our best to put specific warnings in the descriptions of each episode. Now on with the show.
Adam and Tick were silly queens, and they danced the scene, and Bernadette was a little over the crowd. So they bounced for a show out of town, sneaking into toilets, stealing Abba's poo. Bus broke down and won't start. And Cynthia showed me where a ping pong ball shall shove in the outback with dead roos, and the men are all uncouth. Hey, hey, silly queens from down under Felicia's world, and she just wants to have fun. And Mitzi has a son.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Nostalgia Killers podcast, where we revisit films from our youth to see if they still hold up or should be inserted into the great DVD player in the sky. Here in all my glory, I am Chuck Starzenski, hosting the show today with the always amazing Javier Martinez.
Woohoo! Yeah, buddy.
And all the way from down under, we have the once again, that's a weird way to say that. We once again have Julia Kaplan.
G'day, mate.
That's right.
Nar.
And for today's show, we watched The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. So for a quick pitch, I've got Agent Smith, Zod, and the guy from Memento travel across the Australian outback, dancing, making friends, and playing games of ping pong.
That pretty much sums it up, yeah.
Be sure to stick around for the end of the show, where we'll do our top 5 movie costumes we wished we owned. And this is about the time we'll give that honorary Sam Coughlin spoiler alert. If you haven't seen this movie, it came out in 1994, 30 years ago, so...
Spoiler alert, yeah.
Julia, this was your pick. What does this movie mean to you? Why did you choose this as your film of the day?
Oh, man. So I've wanted to do this movie for a hot second. This was actually the very first queer film that I ever watched in my whole life. I can remember it specifically because I was like 11 or 12 and I was living in this co-housing, which is a little like a commune, but a little less culty. A little less culty. And no, it was
slightly,
fine.
Just a smidge.
It was great. But there was this like communal like media room that you could hang out in, and people would donate like DVDs and videos and books and all sorts of random crap. And I like would go in there every so often and, pick out a book to read or pick out like a random movie to watch. And this was like the one that I desperately wanted to watch because it was the only one that had a pink cover. Drawn to that. Sucked me in right away like a sweet little pink rosebud, and popped it into the VHS player because that's what we had back in those days. The rest was history. It was like chemical reaction. It was like my first introduction to not only drag but extended queer universe.
Sure. The QCU, if you will.
Yeah, the QCU. And the rest, as they say, is history. It kind of opened the door. And this was years before RuPaul's Drag Race was on the air. So, it was back when drag was relatively inaccessible unless you were someone who was, either old enough to go to a club or old enough to sneak into a club or, get someone who had a similar ID to you to let you get into the club. There were ways to get in back in the day, but definitely not for like a 12-year-old, in Santa Rosa, California. And so this was like my entree into queerness, and yeah, definitely made a huge impression. And I can remember being like 11 or 12 and just thinking, more. I need more of this, more feathers, more snappy one-liners, more. Give me more.
I love that this was like a free box find for you, because I feel like those are always the most fun. Like when it's just like some kind of weird, like, oh, like, yeah, I found this like at a bus stop and I decided to pick it up.
Oh,
like,
yeah. No, there were, and the cool thing, that was one of the really cool things about living at that place too, is that it was just like, because it was all donated and it was, you know, all kind of up for grabs, it was kind of like you had your own access to like a free thrift store, and you could borrow stuff and take it home and put it back. And, you know, sometimes you find a VHS that speaks to your soul and you take it and then you run and you leave and you keep it. But it was like a real treat, because there were a lot of movies that I watched at that place, but Priscilla was definitely the end all be all. That was like, that changed the game. So that was why I was super excited when you hit me up and said it's gay time, bring it. Like, I got you.
Wake up, bitch, it's gay o'clock.
It's gay o'clock for me every day, baby. So yeah, that was definitely this is deep nostalgia. This is the nostalgic movie for me, I would say.
Hell yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I personally, this is new to me. I hadn't even heard of this. So when I heard this is what you were doing, I'm like, I don't know what that is. Usually when, I get another one of those things that I haven't seen, like last episode we did Joe's apartment, I'll at least do like a quick little, I don't go in depth on Google, but I'm like, okay, what, like just to like, okay, what the fuck am I watching?
Yeah.
Right? Okay, there's, cockroaches in it and, Jerry O'Connell, right? And so this time I didn't do that. I literally just pulled it up on one of my streaming services. I didn't even like stop to read anything or to like watch the little, they have those stupid autoplay where they play like 10 seconds, 30 seconds of the movie.
I hate that.
I fucking hate that.
Quick rant. I fucking hate that.
I do.
Pornhub has that too.
That's fine.
Those are fine. Those are great. Those ones are great. But sometimes, like, man, depending, sometimes when you're really like, you need a quick one, like you can just, sometimes the splash page. That's all.
Yeah,
you
just need a quick scroll.
That is necessary. No, I hate when they do that on like Netflix and stuff like that.
Anything other than Pornhub.
anything with plot. I'm like, nah, dude, please don't.
Yeah, you just gave away the on those pages. Like I know what I'm getting into. I just want to make sure that is what I'm
Yeah.
But no, I didn't do that this time for this film, and so I just clicked play, started watching it, and it was great because my first reaction, whatever 60 seconds in the film, I was like, holy fuck, it's Hugo Weaving.
Yeah,
which was amazing.
Elrond.
I know who the fuck was
Lord of the Dance.
Amazing. So I'm sitting there like, okay, and okay, Terrence Stamp is gonna be in this. That's cool. Oh, Guy Pearce, I fucking hate Guy Pearce, but cool. Keep watching, and then like 2 minutes later, oh wait, holy fuck, it's Guy Pearce right there. So this was quite a treat to go in completely blind.
Yeah, I also went in, had never seen this film either. I was very aware of it though. It was like one of those, like I would see the cover because the cover is very iconic. It's like them in full drag, like in the desert with a beautiful blue background and all that.
Okay.
And I remember just being like, oh yeah, that movie, huh? Maybe next time. And Julia and I have been meaning to watch it together since we like became friends.
Yeah,
basically.
for like a decade now, literally.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, decade in the making.
I'm glad this finally happened.
It's finally happened.
Well, yeah, Julia, what are some of your favorite scenes, or like what really sticks out for you?
Oh man, I had trouble with this. At first, it was like easy. Went down, wrote out a list, and then I rewatched it again, and I was like, oh no. Oh, I've made this so difficult on myself, because honestly, there's so many quick one-liners and witty kind of back and forth scenes, but just a quick list. One of my absolute favorites and one that always just sticks out in my memory is Ralph. When the first time we actually hear Bernadette's dead name, and it made an impression when I was a kid, because of course I didn't at the time know anything about trans people or about the trans community or about the queer community in general. That was an important lesson. If someone has a name that they've chosen for themselves and you use their dead name, they will follow you to your hotel room and drunkenly beat the shit out of you.
I was gonna say, I did love that. I love that she beats the fuck out of him.
What did you call me? So that, and also just the way that Guy Pearce just kind of spits that name, just Ralph. Yeah. It almost sounds like, like vomitous. It's just such a, and the whole scene precipitating that as well with Cheryl.
Yeah. being drank under the table.
Yeah,
by
listen
Bernadette.
here, you mullet. Like honestly, that whole scene in the bar, and then the final kind of beating the shit out of Felicia in the hotel room. That's probably one of them. Also, the cock and the frock on the rock.
Yeah.
The scene where they actually ascend Kings Canyon dressed as in full drags. Just, it's such a victory moment. Beautifully, like visually beautiful moment, and I think really kind of summarizes in a weird way some of like the experience of being in the queer community, that you like strive so long for acceptance, and then you get to this point and you realize that you actually, kind of like being in your own community. Beautiful queens up in full makeup hiking Kings Canyon. And then the last one that I wrote down, every single drag performance sequence
Yeah.
in the whole movie, because they're all so good. And I have a few gripes with that, which I'll address later. But for the most part, like just the costumes are so incredibly astounding. The makeup is so incredibly astounding. Like song choices. I want to make a quick note, if I can, about the first song that Hugo Weaving is that Mitzi is lip syncing to in the very, very first scene. Have you looked at the lyrics of that full song? There's a third verse.
Oh.
And she goes off. She's talking about like, you know what happiness is? It's that little baby you have in your hands. It's that husband that you fought with this morning and you're going to make love to tonight. And then there's a bit about subtle whoring. Literally those words. Anyway, I highly recommend everyone listen to the soundtrack.
Yeah, the
as well.
soundtrack was great. That was
Soundtrack was
one of
great.
the things that stood out to me too. Was the,
I want to stick on this tangent really quick. I do love nothing more than songs that go on way too fucking long. And it's like for example, California Love. If you've listened to the entire version of the Tupac song, there's that whole weird, like, goes on for like 2 minutes at the end where it's just the auto-tune voice being like, where the girls shake they booties. And it just like keeps going. You're like, this is going to stop, right? No, it's not.
Stop. Yeah, no, that song, if anyone decides to go and look it up and listen to it, first off, it's great. Everyone should do it at karaoke. And basically, when you listen to the lyrics, the message of the whole song is, listen, girl, orgasms are nice, but babies and husbands are better.
Which is kind of Mitski's thing.
Yeah, there you go.
Mitzi, yeah.
Yeah.
Not Mitski. Maybe a different movie. Maybe a very depressing Sylvia Plath take on this,
Yeah, it's Mitzi Del Bra, Felicia Jolly Goodfellow, and Bernadette.
for me, so let me just get this out there. So I did end up loving this movie, but I had a hard time getting into it at first.
Same.
And I think that's just because I don't think I fall into the target audience for it. And just personally, in my life, I am not as exposed to the LGBTQ community as I wish I could be. Like, don't come across a lot of people like that in my personal circle, and so
Straights.
Yes. It's all just a bunch of straight dudes. No.
Breeders.
No, I just, which is weird because I think I'm in Sonoma County and, I've met all these other people from these different walks of life, and I just don't come across that a whole ton, So I felt like, at first, like a lot of the, I'll get into the nitpicks later, but basically it took me a while to get into the film, but by the end of it, I fucking loved it. And so for me, the one that sticks out to me was the final performance at the casino. With the finally, right? Yeah. So I told you guys I was watching this late last night. So I'm in my living room at fucking, I think past midnight, just at the top of my voice. Finally, it happened to me. Yeah, I'm just like, I'm so fucking into it. So yeah, so that's the scene for me. I loved the song, all the different costume changes that they went through. Yeah, that was awesome. I love that. That's the one that pops out the most to me. I mean, Terrence Stamp and Hugo Weaving did such an awesome job.
I know.
Hugo Weaving does a great job playing an effeminate man. I had to, restrain myself because we'll get to the trivia later. So I had to not Google, for a second I was like, is Hugo Weaving gay? Or is he, at all like that at all? But I didn't look into it, so because I didn't want to spoil anything, but did a good job playing that if he's not. Yeah, I mean the character of Bob the mechanic.
He's so sweet.
He's fucking amazing. Yes.
Everyone needs a Bob in their
Everyone
life.
needs
That's
a Bob.
like what I took away.
Bob is Bay. Bob is Bay.
Yeah. And it's it's unfortunate because I was waiting for the moment for him to I don't know turn, but I was kind of waiting. I was like, oh, I hope Bob is the gentleman that he really presents to me. And so I was really glad that okay, cool. He's an awesome human being.
Oh yeah.
Love him.
He even knocks like
Yeah.
at
Oh,
the
yeah.
dressing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he brings Bernadette roses.
Yeah.
Saves said roses from getting wilted,
Mm.
which is a metaphor.
And there's the implication of a sex scene.
Leaving
Hide
your
the
cake out
sausage.
in the rain.
Yeah, Bernadette has left her cake out in the rain. Which is a great song if anyone has never listened to that. Someone left their cake out in the rain.
Oh, I didn't even...
Yeah.
Oh.
MacArthur Park.
I didn't realize that's what they were referencing.
Yeah. So you're not gay enough.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying, Julia. I will fillet this microphone right now.
Do it.
But yeah, for me, favorite scenes or things that stuck out. Definitely, honestly, my favorite scene was when they're broken down and they like get discovered by the indigenous, like Aboriginal people. Mm-hmm. That whole evening performance for the indigenous people, like where they become accepted, because it's like, oh, it's like another outlier community taking in another outlier community. Super sweet. And I honestly fucking teared up when they bring that one Aboriginal person like into the fold. I was like, we all belong somewhere.
Dressed in
Yeah,
silver.
and he's feeling himself. Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh yeah, he's down with the vibes.
Yeah.
He's down with the get down. Yeah, no, that's such a great sequence. They have so many high points in this whole film. There are so many like moments, even when it's not necessarily like a victory moment or like a, you know, wow, that was, you know, the pageantry of it all. Even like the more subtle, nuanced, you know, kind of reflective moments where you get that kind of like intimate close up on Hugo Weaving in particular gets a lot of them, and he really just like shines in all of those really intimate kind of moments where he's reflecting on his life and on his situation. And, you know, the little talks between Mitzi and Bernadette are just like little nuggets. But yeah, no, there's so many high points in this film. It's hard to choose.
Yeah. And normally I hate movies when they have like the big kind of melodramatic, like, oh, look at this happening like moment. But the bit where Bob saves Felicia from the homophobes,
Yeah.
I was like, that was like one of the few times where like that very cliche thing actually like worked.
Sure.
Because usually I'm like, all right, yeah, we get it. And like, we don't need a fucking assault scene in a movie, dude. Like we can do anything other than that. But it was like, that one worked for me and it was powerful.
Yeah. And I think it was also that, I'm sure we'll talk about this scene more in a bit, but there was also, I think, something for Bob's character in that scene where it was kind of like the make or break, where he was either going to be a villain or he was going to be this new, very supportive kind of force. He, you know, it's his opportunity to kind of rise to the occasion. It's also Felicia's kind of, you know, eating humble pie moment and a dark piece of, you know, queer reality, but it's something that I think, much like a lot of stuff that was in this film, handled, you know, very tactfully.
Yeah, absolutely.
And deliberately.
And I just want to point out, so the line that made me laugh the most in the entire film was, and I think it's just because it's Terrence Stamp being Terrence Stamp, but when Bernadette steps out of the bus and, oh, Felicia, where the fuck are we?
Yeah. Oh, Felicia, where the fuck are we?
Yeah. I don't know why, but I just stopped and I was laughing so hard at that.
I think it's just Terrence. Yeah,
I think it was
Terrence
just
Stamp
because-
fucking kills in this movie. Like,
Oh, yeah.
like Bernadette's just like, she's so poised and put together at all times. And it's like, yeah, it's just that kind of like that very reserved English thing where it's
Yes.
like, yeah, and it fucking like they use it for comedy gold.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Budget. I have a few of my favorites written down. Budget Barbie camper, liposuction penis enlargement. Don't darling me, darling. You've got a face like a cat's ass. You know, just all those little zingers.
This was also the first, so I don't know if this is where the idea came from or if it's just the first place that, outside of my original having seen it like in South Park, but like the ping pong ball scene.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we're going to get there. Yeah,
Was this the film that like brought that, or was this like a thing before that I just don't know about? Like,
I mean, it's definitely a thing. Like, it's more of like a
Yeah.
sex show thing for sure.
okay, because I know because I had seen it was in South Park, and so when I saw it, I was like, holy fuck! I was like, is this where South Park got it from? Because this is fucking hilarious.
I mean, it's probably a big part of where South Park got it from. Is
Yeah.
just because this was like probably like what brought it into the mainstream. But yeah, it's definitely like one of those like, it's like, well, yeah, we're gonna go see a sex show and they're gonna do some stuff kind of things.
Yeah. I don't think you're supposed to do that with ping pong balls.
No, I lost it when Yeah, I love that she's got the zipper too. Where she's she's got she's like a fucking skee ball machine. She's got the balls loaded down the front of her shirt, so she's literally just like. Boop, boop.
Well, seeing that scene specifically as like a 12-year-old was like, wow, I had no idea you could do that. Can I do that?
Just start flexing right there as you're watching the movie. Just giggling for dear life.
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think that's meant to do that. Still haven't tried.
I'll probably cut this out, but my wife for a moment was like, I want to learn to do that.
I mean, why not? That would be not only a party trick, but just a flex.
Exactly. Well, that was her thing. She mainly wanted to do it as like a flex of just not like she's actually going to like put on shows or anything, but she's I want to be able to say I can do that.
Yeah. I mean, even just like you get in an argument with someone, you just like climb up on their car or something and start firing ping pong balls out of your puss. Like no one's going to be able to make any comments. Yeah. They're going to be a little concerned. They're going to be confused.
Also, imagine they can't make comments. Like you really strengthen those core muscles and you could launch golf balls and just like you could become a weapon.
Start loading yourself up with grenades.
Yeah, exactly. You're just a rocket launcher. Fire in the hole!
This has been Nostalgia Killers with Chuck Starzenski.
Yeah, I feel like this happens every time I host. This is why, Luke, if you're listening, you're an integral part of this team.
So where were we?
Anyways, well, I think this is a great transition because we're talking about ping pong balls and Cynthia. Let's get into nitpicks, which I'll kick things off with. Cynthia is my biggest nitpick. She's just like a super racist characterization of an Asian woman. Like everything that comes out of her mouth, I'm just like, oh, I understand everyone's got to work. I was like, but this poor woman, like, you know.
Yeah. The portrayal of Cynthia is arguably the biggest issue with the film. For the longest time, I didn't even know what ethnicity she was supposed to be. I was like, is she supposed to be Vietnamese? Is she supposed to be Filipina? And like,
she's supposed to be Filipina because I was watching it with subtitles.
Oh, to say Tagalong,
and it says like she's speaking in Tagalong.
Okay, yeah, because it was never clear. It always felt, even as a kid, like a caricature, and it was rewatching it again as an adult has always been a case of like,
the only upside is that she is, she's a woman trying to express herself, and she does leave Bob. She's like, bro, you ain't tying me down.
Yeah, she does leave Bob and his little ding-a-ling. Yeah. But yeah, there are other like little things that I think you could nitpick with the film, like, the fact that obviously it would be nice if there could have been a queer main cast, but this is 1994. Right. We'll take what we can get.
Exactly.
It would have been really cool to see a little more of the Sydney drag scene featured. That's just like a little personal nitpick, but definitely like the big honky tonk boy is the portrayal of Cynthia. It's just like, wow, we'll just take every mail order bride like stereotype and just compress it all into this one very sad woman.
Yeah, the only thing they were missing is like a gong sound effect, basically. Like it was pretty bad.
It was like she never made reference to a dragon or anything like that, so it's like, okay, guess we'll take what we can get. But it was definitely a little suspect.
Yeah, because she could have just been ordinary, unhappy, wild.
They could have just made her a dick.
Yeah. But,
that would have been fine.
They could have made her the Cheryl character, like something like that. But so it was a choice.
Yeah, that was definitely that was a dubious choice. That was the dubious choice. It was one criticism that I saw was like, white characters are handled so well, and I don't know enough about Australian race politics to say like whether or not the portrayal of Indigenous Australians was like respectful or not. To me, it felt respectful, but again, I don't know enough about that situation to be like, yes, this is a very respectful and accurate representation. I would say if there's one thing that kind of undermines the message of the film, it would probably be the portrayal of Cynthia, just because she's so racist. Such a deeply racist stereotype.
My biggest nitpick, which isn't necessarily a valid one, Guy Pearce. I fucking hate just as an actor. Like anytime I see Guy Pearce in anything, it just fills me with an irrational rage.
Fuck that guy.
I fucking hate him. He's been in great movies, but his character, like, I just always like, oh, get off the screen. I don't like your face. I don't ever want to like intentionally like assault somebody, but I want to punch him in the face every time I see him. I'm like, if I saw you on the street, I would sock you in the face. And I feel really bad afterwards, but I just want to. I don't like him. So when he showed up, like, when he showed up, I was like, God damn it. Like, it was fine at first when I saw him in drag. I was like, oh, this is great. Okay, cool. Like, we're going to see something different. And then he opened his mouth and I was like, God damn it. Like, I don't like this.
The smarminess was like,
I don't like this.
It worked with the character of Felicia because Felicia's supposed to be kind of a smarmy little ass bite as well. But yeah, you definitely get that Guy Pearce grease on it.
See, and for that reason, it was just really hard to get past my bias of Guy Pearce and like accept Felicia as a character. So I was just like, I don't like Felicia because of Guy Pearce. I hate Guy Pearce. So that was my nitpick was I don't like Guy Pearce. So it did bother me every time we had too much focus on Felicia. And then the only other thing, I don't know if you'd call it a nitpick. It's more just a personal thing. It again took a while, a little bit for me to get really invested in the story. So I felt it started off kind of slow. Absolutely not the movie's place to like have to introduce me to anything. But we're just kind of just thrown into the drag scene, right? And so I guess for people that would would be like unfamiliar with it, I guess you would say. It is kind of like, it takes a while to like pick up on like, okay, so like what is everyone's role here? Like what are all these different, personalities and like, what's each, their relationships to each other? Like what is the significance of like, or the importance of like the show that they're going to, or like why take the bus, or like why, like it takes a little bit for like, it took me like a while to kind of like really be like, okay, I get it now. Like I'm grounded in the universe, in this world, and now I'm going to enjoy it.
I like being thrown in. I agree with your nitpick though of like, I think between the opening number and them getting on Priscilla, that 10 minutes, I kind of like tuned out a little bit.
Yeah.
Just like it needs to pick up the pace a little bit right there. It needs, because it's all character intros, but they're not like, it's not like big character intros. You're not like just like, boom, this is who Felicia is. Boom, this is who Mitzi is. It's more like Mitzi's, going through it, and then like, not to undermine Bernadette and who she is and all that, but it's like, it's her character introduction is like awake. So we're like, okay, like we don't really get a whole lot of like pizzazz out of them right away. We get like that just kind of, okay, I guess I'll go on this trip with you kind of thing. Like, there's not a big impetus for her, it seems like.
And I can see like artistically why you would make the choice to start it maybe a little more slowly, just because I think the intention is to show that they've kind of all stagnated, with the exception of Felicia, who's just a demon. But to show that like Bernadette and Mitzi have kind of stalled a little bit in their professional lives. They're not quite satisfied with what they're doing. And at least for me, I see it as like a setup of things in Sydney are rather drab at the moment, and it's time to get the hell out of Dodge and go do something different. I can also see too, and this is why one of my nitpicks was that I would love to see a little more of the Sydney drag scene, is that you could do a whole podcast just on Sydney and like Australian drag culture and the history there. And someone who's kind of in the know might have been able to pick out more, like little Easter eggs and things that would have maybe made the world feel a little more rich. When you don't have that background, it's a lot harder to kind of feel your own place in that world as far as like the story. So do I understand it? Yes. Do I also see how it would maybe be a little bit of a turnoff at the beginning? Also, yeah.
And like I said, I mean, it is not the movie's, or the movie or the artist's like place to like be like, oh, here, let me just slowly cater, bring you in, at all.
Look here, cis boy.
Yeah, exactly.
This was made for the cisgender white males.
Right. There's literally hundreds of thousands of other films that don't cater to other people and don't, just throw you in, so, but again, that was just personally on my first watch, that was kind of where I found myself, mentally. But like I said, by the end of the movie, I fucking loved it. So nice. I'm glad. And I'll definitely watch this again. Oops,
sorry.
It away. Sorry.
That's all right. Which brings us to Rainy Day double features. If you were going to watch this again, what would you watch it with, Javier?
So the thing that jumped out at me was Some Like It Hot, which I know I mentioned before.
That's a solid one.
I fucking love that movie too. I don't know what order I would watch them. I think I'd probably watch Some Like It Hot first and then watch.
I agree. I had two. I was like, okay, you can either continue with the drag train and go like like a little happier, a little peppier, a little more like family fun time, and do Tu Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Love Julie Newmar, which is allegedly a ripoff of Priscilla, but I see a lot of difference because it is a very different story ultimately. But it's a little more like wholesome in a way. It's a little more the drag queens roll into town and save the day, and it's a little more like, yeah, like 1980s like wholesome family viewing kind of deal, even though it's made in the 90s. The other one that I put down was if you wanted to do something that just you're like, okay, now I'm on the drag bus, now I'm going to take a little bit of acid and go on the drag train. Pink flamingos.
Oh.
Yeah.
That is also, yeah. I know that was John Waters' intention, but acid and pink flamingos, it sounds like a terrible time.
Heavy with the drag and just eat dog shit.
Yeah. And who doesn't love a good dancing asshole?
Yeah, who doesn't love a good dancing asshole? I mean, come on.
Yeah, for me, I went more just kind of spiritual, like with, kind of road trip,
Sure,
self-discovery, all that kind of stuff. I went Blues Brothers.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Because I figured it's a road movie about performers, trying to make it to their next gig.
Absolutely.
They're also questioning, like, hey, should we be doing this still? Like, is this what we,
Like
I like that. I like that choice. It's like the spiritual straight cousin
Exactly.
of Priscilla. I was like, oh yeah, that's my cousin. It's just Leslie Jordan, R.I.P.
Yeah. Which brings us to this movie's cocktail. So for the podcast today, we are drinking the Mitztini. So you've got 1.5 ounces of light rum, 1/4 ounce of a hibiscus liqueur, 1/2 ounce of a strawberry syrup, 3/4 ounce of lime juice, and a dash of rhubarb bitters. Shake everything and strain into a massive glass so that your hands look so small.
Or in this case, strain into a tiny glass so
your
that your
hands
hands
look
are
massive.
giant
Yeah.
and manly.
We are drinking out of thimbles today. That's pretty ironic.
Don't believe everything you hear.
Exactly. And with that, we'll take our first ad break. And we're back with everyone's favorite segment, Nostalgia Killers Trivia. It's time to find out if our hosts are giving mother or I don't know the answer, brother. Question number 1. What unlikely inspiration helped Stephen Elliott write the script for Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert?
Oh man, I know this.
Is it A, spaghetti westerns, B, Japanese samurai films, or C, the movie Spinal Tap?
I'm gonna go with spaghetti westerns.
I'm also going to go with spaghetti westerns.
That is correct. So Stephen Elliott got the idea of the film while seeing a plume of feathers break from a drag queen's headdress and go tumbling down the deserted street like a tumbleweed. And he was instantly reminded of Fistful of Dollars, and he's like, what if I made like a drag western? I love that. Question number 2, true or false? The small town of Broken Hill, where Priscilla the Bus gets vandalized, now hosts its own annual drag festival.
True.
Yeah, that sounds true. That's cool. I hope they do.
It is correct. It is true.
Yes.
Awesome.
Prior to the film, the real town of Broken Hill was infamous for intolerance and homophobia. Now hosts a Queen of the Desert themed drag fest every year, including a parade that passes by the Palace Hotel where they stayed in the movie. Question number 3, speaking of Priscilla the Bus, Priscilla was on display during the opening ceremony of the Summer Olympics in Sydney. What country deliberately cut the bus and all references out of its own telecast?
America, fuck yeah.
Saudi Arabia.
Julia is correct. It is the USA.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
We didn't want to show anything deemed quote-unquote too political.
Well, that bus is really quite horny. I mean, it just makes me violently erect every time I see it. And I think about gaping buttholes. Mm-hmm. When I see that beautiful pink bus go by, I go, oh.
I see that pink bus, I start getting real gay, brother. Question number 4. The film won an Academy Award for Best Costume Design, despite having the lowest budget of all the films nominated that year. How much was spent on costuming? Closest guess wins.
I know that at least one of the costumes was like literally $15 to make. I'm going to guess like $300.
No, there's no way.
That's sweet boy. That would
No,
be
dragging a
mind-blowing.
dime, baby.
$3,000.
Javier is correct. It's actually $20,000.
Oh, well,
shit.
I was thinking real drag dollars. It's like, I've got $20, I've got a bunch of garbage bags, and I've got a dream.
Question number 5. Speaking of that costume budget, a lot of the money actually went to waste. What happened to a large portion of the wardrobe for the film? A, they were stolen off set in Coober Pedy. B, they melted in the heat of the outback. Or C, they were loaded on the wrong truck and accidentally sent to Melbourne.
B.
I'm gonna go B.
Ding, ding, ding. You guys are both correct. Yeah. A lot of the outfits were made of vinyl and plastic and were left in a truck during a very long, hot day of shooting. And when they were like, okay, cool, we're going to pack up the night, guys, they opened and it was like just a puddle of goo.
Yeah.
Oh, no. That sucks.
Question number 6. To get them into character, the 3 leading actors were forced to have a night out together in full drag. Which actor was the most comfortable with the experience?
I get the vibe that Hugo Weaving would be the most comfortable. He gives the best mouth and face.
God, it better not be fucking Guy Pearce. But I'm gonna say, you know what? I'm gonna say Terrence Stamp because he has to get into character.
Javier is correct. It's Terrence Stamp,
Oh.
aka Bernadette. Apparently, Terrence Stamp was so comfortable he forgot how he was dressed halfway through the night out and actually started hitting on random women at the bar.
I love that for him.
I love that, and I'm also like, oh, he was old when he made this. That means he's just a creep too. He's like, hey, ladies, da da da.
Hey, girls, do you like my boobies? You want to feel my tuck? It's juicy. That's the other thing. Everyone in this movie had the meatiest tuck. Just a handful.
Just a ham sandwich down there.
Just a ham sandwich. I did appreciate that they hid Bernadette's package, which was nice. It was like a nice little piece of continuity there. But at one point, Guy Pearce walks on screen and I'm like, that's a penis. That's a penis. I can see the outline of it. That's a penis.
Oh, we're finally here, Julia. You haven't been on the show in a while. It's Chuck and Julia's Cock Talk.
Chuck and
I have a
Julia's
segment
cock talk.
dedicated to you earlier in the podcast.
Yeah.
Question number 7. A ton of different actors were heavily considered to play the leading trio. Which group was director Stephen Elliott's dream cast?
Ooh.
A, John Cleese, Colin Firth, and David Bowie. B, Tony Curtis, Rupert Everett, and Richard Donovan. Or C, John Hurt, Tim Curry, and Hugh Jackman.
C, because I feel like I remember reading that Tim Curry was initially offered the role and turned down the role of Mitzi, or maybe Bernadette. One of the two.
Wow, all of those sound really like believable.
I'm gonna go B.
I'm gonna go with A.
Julia is correct. It's B.
Wow.
So when he wrote the script, Elliot was a diehard fan of Some Like It Hot, and was just like, I want Tony Curtis again, like in drag, basically. I love that. And then, just so you know, everybody except for Hugh Jackman were offered parts or auditioned.
Oh, okay.
Hell yeah.
Question number 8, true or false? The Australian chapter of the ABBA fan club tried to boycott the movie.
I feel like ABBA fans are generally too gay for that nonsense, but maybe I'm speaking from a biased perspective because every ABBA fan that I know is a little bit gay. False?
I don't know. Terrence Stamp has a lot of ABBA slander in there, so I'm going to say true.
It's false, but it's a bit of a trick question. So it's false because it was the American chapter that tried to boycott the movie.
Of course, Americans can't let anyone do anything fun.
Yeah,
we're not allowed to have anything.
They took huge offense to Felicia's ownership of an ABBA turd. That was just like the straw that broke the camel's back. They were like, no.
That's just because they're jealous. They couldn't get an ABBA turd.
Question number 9. The film had its premiere at the Castro Theater in San Francisco in 1994. True or false? The film was not well received and Elliot was booed off stage during the Q&A.
False. That'd be wild.
I'm going to say false.
It is true.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So the crowd felt that the film made light of queer issues and was upset that there was no scenes depicting gay romance. And during the Q&A, he's like, it's 94, we're not ready for that. And everyone's like, fuck off, get off the stage.
Oh.
See, that was kind of the reason why I was like, okay, maybe, because I can definitely see in SF straight actors and not featuring like, romantic plot line that was like overt. I can see people taking issue with that, but also at the same time, it was the 90s. Mm-hmm. It would not have gotten, a lot of air. And I think since then, people have kind of realized that to an extent that everything kind of has to be considered in the time that it was made.
Question number 10. We have a shoehorned in suspicious connections question.
Ooh.
All 3 leading actors have ties to previously reviewed films on the podcast. Which actor has the most connections to our show with one single film? Bonus points if you can name the movie. Is it A, Guy Pearce, B, Terrence Stamp, or C, Hugo Weaving?
I'm gonna say Hugo Weaving.
Oh, Terrence Stamp.
It's actually Hugo Weaving.
Oh.
Yes. Hugo Weaving is in Happy Feet 2.
Wait, what?
with Elijah Wood, Brad Pitt, Robin Williams, and E.G. Daily from Pee-wee's Big Adventure too.
So that... Wow, Happy Feet. Huh, who knew?
And today's winner is Julia. And for your prize, I will hand the mic off to you, Julia, if you want to give us a little drag history.
Yeah, so now that I have you all subject to my will, just a brief little snapshot. So again, the Sydney drag scene is like goes back literally like 100 years, and you could do a whole podcast on the Sydney drag scene itself, just by itself, but there's a scene all across Australia. Just some honorable mention of like absolutely iconic queens: Dame Edna, who is like quintessential Australian drag, Courtney Act, Courtney Act, you have to say it with the Australian accent. Courtney Act, Mogadana, Cindy Pastel, who is apparently the bassist for Mitzi Del Bra, and I mean just like so many more. There's a thriving scene to this day. Obviously now with drag going mainstream, it's got a pretty significant boost, and but for a long time obviously it was very similar to how things are here, where you had cross-dressing was illegal, and being gay was also illegal for a significant amount of time. There was a lot of police brutality. There was definitely a lot of violence, but there was also a lot of these little beautiful pockets that would flourish and really thrived. Another little fun fact is that Tim Chappelle, who designed the costumes with his co-designer Lizzie Gardner, worked on a pretty shoestring budget, oftentimes using available materials. So like for instance, the flip-flop dress was actually made with flip-flops from Target. All the wigs were done by Filma Bach, who is iconic for her wig artistry, is known for these big like sculpted foam wigs that she's done for all kinds of different events. Famous people like Katy Perry, I believe, is still going strong today. She has a website, check her out, Filmabach. And then Angela Conti did the makeup. Also, at a number of different points, they mentioned that Bernadette was a lay girl. And a lay girl, it was actually a drag review that occurred at this bar in Sydney called the King's Cross from 1963 to 1994. Apparently working there was a mixed bag, in the sense that it was a mob-owned bar. And so there was a lot of pressure on the girls to perform and to, do well and make lots of money. And there was apparently a pretty distinct threat of violence. But it also turned out really iconic drag performers. It kind of opened up the world, the Australian world, to transness. One of the lay girls, an iconic lay girl by the name of Carlotta, was one of the first trans women to surgically transition in Australia back in the 1970s. So, and it was also like, it was an opportunity for people who probably would otherwise have never encountered drag culture or gay culture in general to interact with that culture in a way that felt, quote unquote safe, in a way where it was like, okay, this is friend, the straights can accept this because all the pretty ladies and, everything. So it's an incredibly well-respected, institution. Unfortunately, it's not an institution anymore. You can definitely feel like the reverberations.
Well, thank you so much for all the actual trivia and information, Julia, as opposed to me being like, oh, what happened when... Yeah. Thank you for the history lesson.
Take it, you dirty slut.
Well, and speaking of taking it, we will take money from anyone, especially our wonderful executive producer, Addie Martinez. Thank you, Addie. I want you to know you are our Bob. You take care of us. You get us to every show.
You are the Bob.
Thank you. A true gentlewoman.
Of all of us guys. You are the Bob.
If you would like to be a fellow Bob, you can sign up for our Patreon. And with that, we will throw it to our second ad break. Ad break! And we're back with Act 3, the award categories. And we start things off with my new band name.
I have 3. Poor Kevin's Dick.
Ooh, I like that.
Which would be a ska band or some sort of, there would be trumpets, there would be a horn section involved. Poor Kevin's Dick. Also, Texas Chainsaw Mascara. I was like, okay, that would be like a queer horror punk, maybe a queer like death metal, like grindcore band. And then Cabanassi Tits, which would be acid funk.
My first one was also a ska band, and I just had the first thing that popped into my head when I was watching this movie, which is, holy fuck, it's Hugo Weaving.
That's a good name for a ska band.
And then I had a disco group, Lars, and Lars.
Oh, there you go.
I wrote that one down.
Yeah.
Lars, and Lars.
Yeah. Great line. I love that. And then I had a country act, Out Drinking Cheryl.
Ooh, that's a goodie.
My first one is also a ska band.
Yes.
Oh, wow, look at that.
You can see there was a vibe, a ska vibe.
Exactly.
Bright, horns, horny.
I had Raccoon Time, which is when Bernadette starts like tearing up. She's like, oh no, it's Raccoon Time.
Oh, fuck, raccoon time again.
Ugly Wall of Suburbia.
Oh,
yeah.
They're a post-rock band.
Yeah.
And then my last one is Queens of Kings Canyon.
Oh,
And
that's fun.
They're a Queens of the Stone Age cover.
I was going to say. Sounds like they would do nothing but like Queens of the Stone Age covers and the occasional Dave Matthews Band cover. Like that vibe.
And then the honorable mention, because no one said it. I was waiting for it. Herpes the Dog.
Oh, yeah. If she's good, she'll heal.
And Herpes the Dog would definitely be like a grindcore thrash band.
Oh, yeah. Herpes the Dog.
That's awesome.
And with that, we'll go into our Roger Deakins Would Be Proud Award for cinematography. I want to just start out by saying this movie's fucking pretty.
Oh,
yes.
Oh, yeah. I know. I was recently just thinking about it with another film, but this is one of those where, like, I could take any frame of this movie and put it up on a wall.
Oh, yeah.
It's great.
I didn't have a specific scene that came to mind, but just the juxtaposition of anytime they have the queens, these little tiny, brightly colored figures against like the stark vastness of the Australian landscape. It just is like, it so beautifully puts you in context of these are some girls who were big fish in a small pond, and now they're realizing that they're actually big fish in a giant ocean, and the ocean is the Australian outback. It's just so beautiful. It's so gorgeous. Like there's one scene in particular where Tick and Bernadette, Mitzi and Bernadette are talking outside of the bus about children, about like having children or it's right after Tick has told them that he has a wife. Hugo Weaving is just lit by the campfire, and it's this beautiful play of like orange and blue, and then you cut back a little bit when Bernadette's talking to him, and you can see just the silhouette of the bus and like the flickering campfire against this like vast open sky. And it's like, it just makes you, it's that same feeling of like when you're standing under, a full starry sky and there's no clouds anywhere, and it's like, I'm an ant. Yeah. I'm so small. My problems are so tiny and yet so big.
Yeah, I guess just specifically mentioning that, it's kind of like when you see, movies nowadays, and every country has their own color filter, right? Where
it's like, oh, we're in Mexico now.
Right, yeah,
it's
yeah.
Like sepia,
yeah, exactly, yeah. So it was like, I think you've just seen so many like same colored deserts, wilderness and plains, that seeing the outback, not just browns and reds, but there's like yellows and whites and greens and blues.
Yeah.
And I was just like, whoa, like this is like amazing. Like I don't think I've looked at pictures of the outback in a while, because like I thought it was gonna be all red and brown, but just seeing like all the colors, Felicia on the roof in the silver costume, that was my favorite one of the top of the bus scenes, was the silver, because the silver really like sparkled and shined.
Is that Channing Tatum in a dog collar? We've got an actor with an unexpected cameo or bit part.
So this was the one that I was holding on to from our little history lesson earlier. It's not strictly speaking like a famous cameo, but the queen who's lip syncing in the final credit sequence is actually the costume designer.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In full drag. Because I was like, who's that girl? Who is she? I must know. And did a little Googling, and I was like, I can't find what queen this is. Like, I want to give credit to this queen. And it was the costumer.
Oh, that's really cool.
In full geesh. We love it.
And then I swear this is wild, but I swear I knew it the second I saw him, was so Bill Hunter, who plays Bob. I was like, dude, is that the guy from Kangaroo Jack? And then I like Googled it. I'm like, holy shit, it is the guy from Kangaroo Jack. He's just like shows up in the bar and he's like a drunk, and like I was like, oh,
It's Bob.
yeah.
Yeah, I had low-hanging fruit. I just had Terrence Stamp as Bernice. I was just like, whoa, that's the guy from The Limey and Yes Man. I was like, and yeah, he's a trans woman. What? Oh, that's okay. We got a movie.
And a beautiful, stunning, statuesque trans woman at that.
We've got a Hans Gruber Deathfall Award. I don't know if you guys had one, but
No, I didn't have one.
I had one. I would say it's more of a metaphorical death because obviously nobody dies. But I said Felicia Adam after the attack in Cooper Pedy, just because up until that point, Felicia, it seems like, is the only one of them who hasn't really faced. I mean, obviously they all have the moment where the bus is vandalized and they, you know, have to see that those horrible, you know, things written on Priscilla. But I think it's the moment where Felicia kind of loses some of that kind of cocky innocence in a way, because I almost interpret Felicia as like a very innocent character, as kind of like she's the girl that family doesn't approve, but they also haven't, you know, cast her off, and she's pretty, you know, got a lot of stuff going on, but she's not the girl who's going to talk about it to you. And, you know, I feel like that was the moment where we kind of saw a little bit of the ego die and a little bit more of the real person kind of come through. And so I put that for the death award, because there are no other deaths. Maybe when Priscilla dies in the middle of the movie, she's putting "Whoa, man" all over the engine.
did love that. Well, I learned that I know nothing about vehicles. I know less than I started.
Whoa, man.
Yeah, I had all the kangaroo corpses. I was like a shocking amount
those
of
were
dead
real
All
too,
the
huh?
dead
They must have
kangaroo
been.
corpses.
Yeah, so many dead kangaroos in this
Yeah.
movie. I was like, oh, why I like Waterworld, a controversial hot take. You guys got any hot takes?
Probably not a hot take to a lot of people, but I guess just, you know, again, with my experience watching this film and kind of how I felt about it initially and then after. But apparently, I don't know if you guys saw or you might know, but they actually just greenlit a sequel to it.
Yeah.
Really?
Like a month ago.
What the fuck?
Literally a month ago.
I had no idea.
Yeah. And I was like, what? That's the only thing that I saw like online, because when I was looking at, I was like, what? I was like, no way. I'm like, that's fucking crazy with all the actors coming back and everything. So my hot take was that I personally am looking forward to going and seeing this in theaters. Like, I want to go watch this. Like, that sounds like a blast.
Yeah, I had no idea. That's crazy. Like, Terrence Stamp's like 80-something, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's got me. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to this. It's going to be interesting. It's either going to be great or it's going to be terrible. No in between.
Yeah, I just had, the big performances in life are never as good as you want them to be. It's always those smaller, like more intimate moments that are the most rewarding. It's like, that thing that you've been putting up on the pedestal where you're like, we're going to do this and it's going to be spectacular. And like, I don't know, there's probably moments of it that are great, but it's always those like, when you really reflect back on life, it's like those mellow nights or this or that. Those are always the ones where you're like, oh, that's where I belonged. Yeah.
I think the only controversial hot take that I had is something I kind of already said, which is that the portrayal of Bob's wife kind of undermines the overall theme of the film, which is like living your truth. And it's just so tone deaf. If we can show a really respectful and genuine and authentic portrayal of a trans woman, but we can't show an authentic and genuine portrayal of an Asian woman, it just feels a little hypocritical to me.
Blue Velvet meets Blue's Clues. What movie would you mash this with? Like to make either a better movie or a hot mess?
So the movie I ended up mashing it with, and it'll make sense when I explain it, but I just couldn't think of any other one that might have already been the same thing. But so I put Paul, the alien movie with
Okay.
It's another road trip RV movie.
Yeah.
And so the reason I want an alien from a homeworld where they appear as like, it's a drag kind of.
Okay, so
right?
it's
like
aliens
the
from
whole
the
vibe
planet
up
Uranus.
Right, because they kept alluding to them in the movie, like, oh, where are you guys from? Uranus. Oh, and then throughout the movie, obviously, as unfortunately, many people experience those looks of like, oh, you're not from here. Oh, you don't belong here, right? So I had this idea of, again, this alien from a drag-esque planet, right, come down and worried about blending in in like modern day, and then seeing like kind of the drag culture here and be like, oh, okay, cool. I'll just kind of blend in with these drag queens here, and like, and like kind of learning about, the drag culture on Earth, and like, oh,
She has to do her own drag number in the film, though. I can't accept this unless the alien has a drag number that she does.
Yeah, 100%.
Good. Yeah.
In its native tongue, too.
Yeah, and it ends with a probing. It ends with a group probing. I'm here for that. For me, I had another 2. I just went real weird with it. I said Fast and Furious 5.
Oh.
For the first one, I think a group of drag queens use their bus to break Vin Diesel out of jail.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
They drive him down to Brazil to perform in a drag show while also robbing a cartel. And it's just a lot of shooting and fighting and dancing and drag and Vin Diesel in a wig. And then the other one that I had was Lord of the Rings.
Oh.
Since we already have Hugo Weaving, might as well. So a fellowship of 3 drag queens and the dwarf they meet along the way. Journey to the center of Middle Earth for both a drag show and to destroy the one cock ring.
Yes.
And Hugo Weaving would play both Mitzi and Elrond, a la The Parent Trap.
Hell yes.
Yeah. And this is
God.
my sister.
Dude, all of yours are way better than mine. I went super low hanging fruit on this one. I went Priscilla meets Pink Flamingos. I just said,
okay, yeah.
Make it campier, trashier, nastier. Have the trio beat the living shit out of the homophobes,
Yeah.
not the other way around. Every small town they go to, they just fuck the entire town.
I love that. I love that. Yeah.
Where it's like, you ain't from around here, are you, mate? And it's like, no, we're not.
And at some point, Felicia eats an abaturd.
Exactly. Oh yeah, exactly. She cracks. That's like her can of like spinach Popeye moment. She like shatters the glass and eats the avatar.
Be gay, do crime.
Here comes Kanye. Pluggables. You guys got anything to promote?
Yeah, find me on Venmo or Zelle. I'm currently taking applications for a sugar daddy to send me to college. Get on it.
Yeah, do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I got nothing.
I just want to plug this amazing show. If you haven't, go back, listen to the back catalog, all that ricketa racketa. But also, go support a drag show. Go see something. It's an amazing form of entertainment. And also, I promise you, there is something for you. It is such a wide net. Like, yes, you've got your RuPaul, like kind of lip syncy kind of fun stuff like that. That's like fun for the whole family. Then it's like, if you like weird shit, I promise you there's down, dirty, grimy, like we're freaking stapling each other and drinking piss kind of drag.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's also like pick anything. Like, are you a fan of Harry Potter? Guess what? There's a Harry Twatter show like in your neck of the woods, I promise you.
If there's one thing that's been beautiful to see as drag has become more kind of mainstream and accepted, it's that people are not necessarily, and this is, obviously there's some degree, don't come for me, gays. I know it's controversial. To a degree, people don't have to fight necessarily to get drag itself recognized as a valid art form. Now it's kind of the in-community, like, what really is drag? What do we do with this? Because there are so many different forms of drag. There's, punk drag queens, there's pageant queens, there's incredible, athletic performers who dance and sing and do all kinds of crazy stunts. And there are people who literally just park it in the middle of the stage and give you the most authentic emotional experience of your life. There's so many different flavors and kinds of drag, and all of them are so, interesting and unique and special for their own reasons. And get out in your community, see some drags, tip the queens, give them your money, give them your money, give us your money, but also give them your money. Give us more of your money, though.
And it's time for, do we call Jules and Vincent good or bad? Is it worth a rewatch? I think we've already kind of gushed.
Yeah,
letting this one live.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We let her live. We let her sing. She headlines. She twirls. She flips. She dances. She picks apples.
Which leads us to the Sonic Death Monkey Top 5. For this episode's question, we've got, what are your top 5 all-time costume pieces that you would love to own?
For me, I'm definitely the silver look with the giant box or the giant shoe.
Big old gaping box.
Big old gaping box. What is it that she says is like, why don't you light your tampon and blow your box apart, because that's the only bang you're ever gonna get. Yeah. Anyway, the silver scene with the shoe, the silver fabric streaming out behind, I would wear that to brunch. I would wear that to a funeral. I would wear that to my, grandmother's wedding. Yeah, that's good shit.
So I took this question as like, okay, so like if I had, like this sprawling mansion and I got to have, the costumes up and like those little glass cases with lights.
Full-on
I was
collector.
like, like what I want, like authentic, So I kind of, and I also try to kind of like pick things that, some pretty mainstream things, some a little bit more, you might have to take a couple seconds to look at it. Be like, oh wait, is that the, right? And that it would all kind of look well together on the same wall.
You're envisioning your case.
Yeah. I had fun with this one. Yeah. So for my number 5, I had Zorro's costume.
Oh, solid.
With the cape and the brimmed hat, the little face mask. Yeah. I think that would just be, that's neat. I think that's one that's not super expected, and you're like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I took this as literal, like I'm gonna wear these things. So
same.
You're also gonna see a huge pivot. We're gonna start off with like, oh yeah, it'd be cool because it's like the abilities of it, and then it's just gonna be like, oh no, I want this because it looks cool.
Yeah.
So number 5, we have John Wick's bulletproof suit from John Wick.
Ooh, there we go. Yeah.
It looks sleek, and also you can't get shot, baby.
No, you can't get shot. You can run through traffic if you want to.
Yeah.
So the number 4 that I had was it's kind of a cheat, but every costume featured in the wig in a box sequence in Hedwig, just because it's like there's just so many, it's just wigs and cute things, and yeah, I would stack the wigs and wear them to IHOP or
specifically
IHOP, or maybe I would wear one of the full ensembles to church or something like that. Maybe like kind of a titties out kind of look. Yeah, any of those wigs, I just want.
So as mentioned earlier on this podcast, I am, unfortunately a straight cis male.
Straight.
So I apologize for my next 2 picks. But for my number 4, I had Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman costume.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I am so thrown off by that disclaimer now.
That's actually a really gay pick of you. That was really gay of you.
I said I'm not wearing it.
Sure.
Although you know what, Sly, I probably I might try. It's too small for me. Michelle Pfeiffer looks great in that movie, and that's cool. And I like the that's pretty gay. All right.
Yeah, no, that's a draggy pick. It's
coming
Michelle
out of my
Pfeiffer.
mouth, I'm like, that's pretty gay.
She's classic. Right. She's classic.
But that'd be
Femme
cool.
fatale.
Going super left field after that one, I have number 4. I have the cyber suit from the movie Starkid. Growing up as a puny dork my whole life, I was like, yeah, dude, of course I would want like a weird alien thing I can climb into that I can like beat up bullies with. Jump super high.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good. My number 3 was the Phantom's costume from Phantom of the Paradise. Just because it's like so weird and kind of, he looks a little like a Jedi, but also a little like someone you wouldn't want to meet in a dark alleyway. And like, he's got the mask, which is just so strange. And it's just such a weird costume and a weird movie, and I love both of them. So I would have that to wear when I want to scare my friends. I would probably like jump out of closets wearing that. Follow your wife around, Chuck, and just pop out of things.
Would you have the little talk box?
Yeah.
Swan.
So for my number 3, again, it's going to sound very gay, but I assure you, I meant it with the dirtiest dirty man intentions possible.
He's getting gayer.
So for my number 3, I had Satanica Pandemonium, aka Salma Hayek from Dusk Till Dawn.
Oh yeah,
which is very very drag too. I'm sure there's been.
If your next one is Barbara Streisand, then we've made it. At that point, Barbara Streisand, funny girl.
She's got the super cool headdress and the high waist. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pageant.
Yeah.
That's camp.
My number 3 is Stanley Ipkiss's yellow zoot suit from The Mask.
Oh, that's solid.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like ever since I was a small child, I was just like, oh, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
That is good. I'm going to pivot hard and go for my number 2, Robert Pattinson's Skin of a Killer from Twilight.
Oh, hell yeah. Just his actual skin.
Just his skin.
Just his glistening skin.
Yeah. I would wear Robert Pattinson's skin with his costume from Twilight still on it and a lot of sparkle dust. Yeah, no, I want the Skin of a Killer. And I would wear it to get mushroom ravioli, to stalk girls. I to run away and I would just have so much fun in the Skin of a Killer.
For my number 2, Pee Wee Herman's suit.
Oh,
yeah.
that's
The white
also
shoes, the
solid.
red bow tie.
So crisp, so
Yeah,
clean.
yeah, instantly recognizable. Yeah, and that one I would definitely wear for sure.
Would you also masturbate in a theater while wearing it?
No comment. No comment.
Redacted.
Redacted.
Cut, that segment was cut for time.
Yeah, the lawyer said
For
we had
legal
to cut that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, my number 2, I had Kaneda's motorcycle outfit from Akira. So like that like sick red jacket with like the giant pill on the back.
Yeah. Okay, that's solid.
And I would get made fun of, and everyone would just be like, "Yeah, look at this like fucking weeb."
Look at this nerd.
But I don't care. I would wear it.
Well, my final one is also drag. It fits with the theme. John Leguizamo's crowning look at the end of Tu Wong Fu. If you guys haven't seen that movie, it's so good, but also just like ridiculous because they get a lot of things right. They get a lot of things wrong. The drag queens in that movie are more superheroes than like just drag queens, but it's really fun, and everyone does such a great job in that movie. So watch that too. But yeah, at the end, John Leguizamo wins a drag pageant and comes out in this fabulous like silver and pink mermaid gown with like this short little like pixie haircut wig. It's just like, yeah, I would wear that to Marshall's, to Target. I would go to Safeway in it.
Yes. I would also wear my number 1 pick everywhere. And it would be horrible because it'd probably smell terrible.
Oh no.
Because I just wear it all the time. I couldn't help it. Number 1 is Darth Vader.
Yeah.
One of the most iconic, like instantly recognizable costumes ever.
I thought you were going to say Eddie Murphy's leather suit. That also would be really hot and sweaty.
My number 1, I would also wear everywhere, to the grocery store, anywhere. It is Big Ronnie's purple crotchless catsuit from the Greasy Strangler. Where he's just, he's packing that massive weird rat dick. And it's like the horniest figure skater outfit you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah. Wear it to a wedding.
Exactly. Wear it to a funeral.
Wear it to a funeral. Wear it to a funeral and a wedding.
Well, on that note, thank you for listening, if you still are. I have been Chuck Starzenski.
I have been Javier Martinez.
And I have been Julia Kaplan.
And we have been the Nostalgia Killers. Bang, bang.
Listen here, you mullet.